Hi, welcome once again to another episode of Candid with Credible. Today, we're very fortunate to have Vijay Mulbagal with us. Vijay has been a veteran banker. He's a senior executive vice president with HDFC Bank. He heads multinational coverage for HDFC. He also heads supply chain finance pan India and is also the head of corporate banking for Western India for HDFC. We're very fortunate to call Vijay one of our mentors and greatest supporters here at Credible. So thank you for that, Vijay. And Vijay has spent an entire career with banking, especially with HDFC, in roles ranging from wholesale coverage, credit, product, and strategy. Uh, Very warm welcome to you, Vijay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nero. Pleasure to be on this.
Great. Vijay, you've had a fantastic journey in the banking space so far. Uh, we'd love to hear a little bit from you on your experiences over the last 15 odd years that you've been with HDFC.
Sure. See, banking is completely unlike the startup industry, right? It's a pretty old school organizations, and things are because obviously highly regulated, and you have to be compliant with several regulations. Given you are dealing with public money and you have a fiduciary responsibility. So learning is fantastic, and the bank has built leadership position in several products, as you're aware.
Right.
As to me, I started as a branch operations person. I started with a branch where you take care of individual requirements. Then I moved into trade, operations and trade sales. That's where you take care of specific area of corporate requirement, going from individual to corporates. But if you look at it, our reason there is, we are problem solvers at the end of the day. So the larger problem you solve, the better for yourself in terms of realization of your own potential. So I feel corporate banking is a place where you're solving larger problems, you're basically following the money end to end. And at every stage of this follow the money, there is a problem to be solved and a product to be created. I think I found corporate bank to be a lot more fascinating than being in a product. So that's how I got into corporate bank, and it's been a fantastic journey. Lot I learned, and lot I have to give credit to my organization, and giving the opportunity to learn and grow. So I always believe it's a virtuous circle of learn, contribute, and grow, and that virtuous circle has played out very well. So supply chain also happens to be one of those problems that you solve at various stages of this cash flow when you follow the money. So we've been fortunate again to build products that the market likes, and the corporates want and prefer amongst various banks.
No, that's fantastic. It's been you've been with HDFC for a very long time. I think you started with HDFC and then went off for a bit and came back.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's been a phenomenal journey. I mean, you are probably one of the most reputed bankers today in the corporate banking multinational space. And you've seen it all. You've seen the evolution of Indian banking over the last 15 odd years, and especially in the supply chain space. So let me ask you this: as HDFC Bank, how has your approach to supply chain financing and receivables financing evolved over the past decade or so?
In fact, surprisingly, we started supply chain almost a couple of decades ago. This product has been around for a couple of decades, and obviously, as we said, when you follow the money, you realize that there are obviously problems to solve, which happen to be in this case the working capital problem for both the corporate as well as for the the supplier community. Largely, it's largely in the receivable side of the corporate. On the
Right.
sorry, my apologies, on the payable side of the corporate and receivable side of the vendor. That's where most of the financing has been, because it's easier to solve that problem compared to a problem, which is on the other side of, the follow the money chain.
Sure.
So we probably, did some of the industry first in terms of coming out with, product structures as well as, technology. But after that, it has largely been, do more of the same, and which has worked very well for us. If you look at it, whatever we have done, it's been an execution story. You get your execution right, and then it allows you to scale up because you've got your act right on the ground. So I think we've did more of what worked for us, either in terms of product or technology, and that has delivered well for us. We have invested in relationships. As a bank, you have the advantage of dealing with large corporates, and several of the products that they do. Supply chain financing happens to be one more product that you can structure and deliver it for the corporate, and that makes corporates receive us a lot more. We've been able to structure, even on the other side, we've been able to structure some other products which have worked brilliantly for the large corporates, and these products have run for over a decade, and we have, of course, in the process tweaked it a little bit. Of course, when the regulations change, you become obviously immediately compliant with that, and when the new technology comes in, you kind of update yourself and be on the tech platform. So I think it's a fantastic journey, largely on the buyer side of the corporate, so which is basically payable side. On the receivables also, we have, I think, structured several solutions which have worked very well for the bank. But if you look at it, we've honestly not really branded it well. We've been doing it as a matter of course. In fact, incidentally, we've been calling it a supply chain management, all along. So whereas it was supply chain finance, but of course, now it's supply chain finance. But I think we have done it reasonably well. We believe we are in leadership position there, and of course, there's a lot more to do. The market is so big that there's a huge opportunity for everyone to participate and grow the market as well as
Sure.
do more for ourselves.
Absolutely. And over the last 2 decades that you have been a part of this endeavor, how much has technology evolved for the bank specifically within the working capital space?
I think I won't give credit to technology as much as I would give credit to a product or a process or execution. Thus far, at least thus far, I would say, because see, it's a simple need. When you come to supply chain finance, it's a very simple need. There's a moment of truth where you need to make a payment, and then that's when you intervene and become a financier, right? So I think the technology per se was very simple. That was required to execute supply chain finance. I think I would credit the product, the process, and really the operational excellence that we've always had as a bank, right, which helped build the portfolio. Going forward, I wouldn't say the same. I would say probably technology will play a much larger role. I mean, in general, in life, technology is going to play a much larger role. It will probably solve many problems that otherwise we've been struggling with. And I think come supply chain finance, I would expect technology to play a larger role than it hitherto played, at least in our case.
Right, and that's also very it's kind of showing up now also, right, Vijay? Because we see a lot of banks partnering with with fintech players, with regtech players, and that is where a lot of shift is happening with Indian banks and multinational banks operating in India. Why do you think that is? I mean, do you see any value in partnering with fintechs, and if so, how do they help the bank's goals?
See, we are basically, you and I are basically frenemies.
Frenemies.
Yeah. So we have to coexist. We have to compete. We have to cooperate. So we basically are in the business of competition, right? So Why do I need fintechs? Because it will be too much to assume and being presumptuous to think uh, any organization will be able to develop all technologies, all products, all processes, etc. So we believe that see there is a customer, there is a product, there's a process, and there is technology, and we are absolutely happy to tie up and work with fintechs in any of these spaces where we believe they bring value. And why do fintechs bring value that banks themselves can't create? Because they typically, you are single focused, right? You typically are a single line fintech which is focused on doing something and doing it better and better. Obviously you will use technology a lot more than a typical bank would, and we would be pretty happy to work with fintechs which bring value in any of these four areas that I spoke about. And we believe that take the case of Credible, I think there are opportunities where we can co-create and develop the market. It's just not about doing it even just for a customer. When you work around all these 3-4 areas, you are essentially developing a market and making the pie much larger. Ultimately, in a competing market, unfortunately, there is always an effort to shrink the pie and get a larger piece of it, but it's not helping anyone. I think there is an opportunity to increase the size of the pie. That is why I would want to work with fintechs, more friends than enemies within the frenemy, framework.
No, certainly for Credible, banks are super friends because without banks we don't exist in the sense that we want to. So for us it's these relationships are super priority, and we believe that what we can add value to the bank is to be able to create some nimbleness, to be able to expand the coverage of vendors and retailers and dealers and distributors through using digitization and using technology. So I think that deepens the pie, like you rightly said, and helps expand working capital availability to a segment which generally is underserved. But that being said, a lot of regulatory change has also ushered in a new era for working capital finance, especially to MSMEs, and the government is extremely pro financing MSMEs. Do you expect further regulation in this space that will create ease of business, that will create easing out of credit to the SME, MSME space? And if so, how is the bank looking at that space?
I think, I won't comment on what the regulator might do, but I can tell you one thing. I think everything that either anyone who's enabling it, who has the power to enable it, would like to have more financing going towards MSMEs. Absolutely, I think that will be a absolute objective. How do we channel cheaper and more financing towards, of course, more in the sense, the required financing. I'm not saying more than what they require. The required financing towards MSME segment. I think that will be an objective which any enabler would like to lead to. And obviously, a couple of more concerns that obviously, typically these enablers would like to have control over is, are we financing genuine transactions? That's a very important thing, because if you look at the amount of capital that is flowing, you want to ensure that we are financing not spurious transactions, we are financing genuine transactions, and we're also not doing a double financing, right? There is a possibility of financing a same transaction twice if you don't have the checks and balances and controls. That is, I think, as an industry, you are a big stakeholder in the entire working capital for MSME supply chain space, and of course, we are a much larger, player and stakeholder. We will be very conscious about how we are avoiding those things and ensuring that we are all playing it for the long term, and also we are playing it for as we increase the size of the pie. The increase in the size of the pie is for the right reasons, and right drivers are leading to that instead of anything else.
No, very well said, Vijay. I think that's one perspective that's rarely come up in our discussions with bankers, and I think it's absolutely vital. I mean, to ensure that the right kind of credit goes for the right reason, and not for the sake of lending. And we see a lot of froth sometimes in the digital lending space, and that's one area which might adversely affect the space going forward.
That's
So you're absolutely right, and I think that's been even for us has been a focus when we execute programs. But a lot of this, if I look back, say to 1.5, 2 years ago, right, all of this, within the supply chain space, the working capital space was a nice to have. With the silver lining, if we can call it that, of this pandemic has been that large companies have moved rapidly towards digitization, especially in ensuring that their supply chains are strong and intact, and that's really helped companies like us grow rapidly also over the last 2 years. But that being said, we've seen a lot of banks, including HDFC, partner us in this growth. And uh, what I, kind of, and I know the answer to this, but for the viewers, it'd be great to know what kind of changes has HDFC made to replace physical KYC, etc., with digital, and whether it's documentation or processes or whatever. How do you speed up onboarding? How do you digitize it? And HDFC has been playing a big role there. So just love to understand what your thoughts are.
sure. I mean, we can't say this in every part of our life, but when it comes to digital, I would say less is good, then more must be better.
Right.
Okay. So I think HDFC Bank had started on a digital journey, well before COVID. Obviously, that's how we are a leader,
Right.
and largest percentage of transactions do happen, through
Right.
digital channels. So that's how we reach out to customers. We service the customers largely through digital channels. Of course, the work from home has been the biggest, change that happened for most people. Obviously, you had to obviously capacitize yourself to making that happen. Of course, when you look at our employee strength, we're very, very large. So enabling it for most of them was a biggest change, and the driver of change as well. And so much so that in fact, when people are being asked to come back to office, I think they're looking at organizations which can allow 100% work from home.
Right.
I was told that some interview, almost 60% of them, the reason they want to shift is that the organization has called them back to office all
Yeah.
the time. But yes, processes, products, everything, today, I think a lot more digital. I won't call it digitizing. Yes, there's a part of digitizing where what you are doing physically, you do it on a laptop or a technology platform. But digitalizing is largely change of mindset, right? That's where probably everybody is now realize the potential of digitalization of thought process, which allows everyone to uh, improve the efficiency of processes, come out with a product which is probably hitherto not possible, and make workflows automated. All of that, I think, the important point is, I think people are realizing the potential of digitalizing the thought process more than anything else. I think personally, I would think that for me, it was the biggest, when I invested in, it's an old school, environment, but I invested in, reading a lot more about, how things are changing in the digital world. Some of the things that have been being missed about is the convergence. The convergence will happen at one point, of the power of convergence will come when all of us come together, in a thought process which is a lot more digitalized.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is a great new mantra to have: digitalization of thought processes. I've never thought of it that way. I've thought of digitization of processes for sure, but the all more important thinking being digitized is amazing, and that's uh, should that happen across corporate India, I think that would be a phenomenal change.
I know the more I read, the more I realize that probably we are living in 1800. So I mean, in general, the more and more you read about Silicon, Valley and what's happening there. I mean, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. People could end up living to 150 and 200 years. We miss that opportunity, but probably next few generations. Yeah.
Absolutely. Vijay, you've been a mentor to many startups, and what are your thoughts on how the startup ecosystem has evolved over the last few years in India?
See, if you ask me, we are a hustle economy, right? Indian jugaad economy, as you call it.
Yeah.
I mean, Indian entrepreneurs are abound. You step out and see, vegetable vendor. You see, somebody coming up with sudden the pakodonomics, so-called pakodonomics, right? So,
Right.
I think Indian entrepreneur has been always there. Nothing. The startups have always been part of India. I think that's why I would call Indian economy hustle economy, the jugaad economy, where people are finding ways and means of coming out with ideas and executing it and making livelihoods. But today, what has changed is a lot more organized manner in which startups are happening. Of course, tech driving good part of that change. And importantly, I think capital is chasing ideas. If you look at the amount of capital that is available, it's chasing ideas, and anybody with a good idea, the capital is available. So you take are you solving a real life problem? Yes, money is available. Can you do it better than what the incumbent player is doing? Capital is available. Even look at the large organizations themselves, and I think there have been startups. Microsoft has been a startup because historically for 90% of their existence, some product gave them revenues. Last 10% of their life, totally different product, gives them revenues, and they've been a startup in that sense, giving them a $2 trillion, market cap.
Sure.
But I would tend to believe execution is, absolutely key. I'll tell you, I mean, fascinating that in when I was studying, I used to go to British Library. I found that chore very, frustrating that I had to take a public transport, go and all that. So I said, I actually thought about digital library.
Wow.
Never followed through. Otherwise, you would be speaking to Jeff Bezos.
Absolutely.
So the point is about execution. So I think the idea is is worth nothing if it's not followed through and executed well. I believe. Kudos to those people who have executed. But I think I'm very interested to see the economics behind every startup as a model. If you are in the business to just make valuations and sell off, it's a different ballgame. But if you're in the business of creating value, I think not keeping an eye on economics is absolutely unwarranted. So it's part of the execution, right? So you get your math right. If you haven't got the math right, I think just pushing the can down the road, hoping that the math will correct itself down the line, is something that I think will be difficult. Given I've been a HDFC banker, and so much of DNA being HDFC Bank, so that's something I would be a little concerned about. But otherwise, opportunities galore. Given that capital is available, technology is available, the last mile execution with focus on math has to be correct.
No, you're absolutely right. There is no real replacement for real revenue and real profit, right? I mean, whether you are a startup or you are HDFC Bank, those two don't change. And you're absolutely right. I think that's what startups need to think about. The shortest, quickest way to get to growth and profitability. But let me ask you a cheeky question, Vijay. Would you ever set up on your own?
See, what is required for a startup? You need, for example, probably the progression could be into fintech, because I don't think I can put up something in AI or ML, right? So probably fintech. So I have credit experience, I have relationship experience, I have lending experience, I have product experience, I have tech experience. So why not?
Absolutely. So when do we hear it happen?
See, I think that said, some people are made to work 9 to 5, right? Your mindset is 9 to 5 mindset, and some people are made for coming out as entrepreneurs. Honestly, the bug hasn't bit me, I should say, but you never know. I mean, that's a funny part about the future, right? So the good part is, thankfully, when I was young, I used to think, I wish I knew the future. Today, I really, if somebody gave me that boon also, I would say, don't give it to me, because I wouldn't like to know the future. But that's the fun of it. You never know, because I think there are all ingredients, and when to mix it and come out is something, I'm honestly not sure of. But yes, there is potential.
But we'll keep looking. We'll keep waiting, Vijay. But look, just as a parting note, I'd love to hear from you in any advice that you'd like to give aspiring startups, aspiring bankers, for you who want to lead the next wave of innovation and economic growth.
I think, as I said, what led me to actually thinking digitally is my curiosity about what's happening around the world. I think banking is as such is a pretty regulated business, and people have to be a lot more careful with the fiduciary responsibility. But adoption of tech thinking allows you to innovate either your processes. Of course, the customer is at the beginning and end of everything. Put your customer first, understand the unmet unsolved problems, and anything that we build around solving those problems is a huge opportunity. I mean, you take the startup space, it's funny, agri-tech, edu-tech, all kinds of techs. I mean, not everything is going to be obviously a growth story, but I think the opportunity within finance is, because everything, finance, money touches everything. And the opportunity to create specific products for specific segments of population, taking care of their, again, unique needs, is humongous, and that can happen only through technology, because otherwise, you will end up your, cost being too high, and obviously economics not, working to your advantage. I think you have to be absolutely. I was fascinated by reading a story about how the Silk Route website, which used to sell drugs online, was cracked by a lowly officer who had interest in Googling. He just had this, he was a Google native, basically. He used to spend nights just Googling, and in one of those Googling sessions, he identified the email ID of the person who was running this Silk Road website, which used to sell drugs by obviously accepting bitcoins. So I think it's fantastic when you're curious and when you're either internet native or digitally native. I think the opportunities are humongous, and I think what you can create for yourself and for the organization, and when you obviously branch out and do your own startup, I think the opportunities are unlimited.
That's phenomenal, Vijay. So I'm going to take back two things from this. One, of course, digitalization of thought processes, and the other one is your passion to read and passion to understand what's happening in the world around you, to be able to bring that to reality. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm sure it's going to create a lot of value for people who listen in, and I really want to thank you for all that you've been doing for Credible and all the support so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.